Welcome to the Ecom 80/20 podcast, the show for brands looking to compete and win at selling online by building better customer relationships. Hosted by Isaac Hyman and Jaco Rosenberg, co-founders of High Flyer Digital and marketing experts for 7, 8, and 9-figure brands, we'll reveal, discuss, and demystify the secret strategies that the top 1% use to acquire, convert, and retain customers better. Our mission is to help level the playing field and help you build more profitable, predictable, and scalable revenue streams for your business. Let's get started.
Welcome back to another episode of Ecom 80/20 podcast. I'm your host, Jaco Rosenberg, my partner, Isaac Hyman. We're here to help e-commerce businesses work smarter, not harder. And on today's episode, we thought we'd dive into one of the main strategies that we like to implement when we jump into a new account. We call them the top three, but one of those top threes is the old cart abandon email and cart abandon strategy. And it's one of the ones that are really beneficial for businesses to be implementing right away. And we're going to go into a little detail about why it's so beneficial for businesses, as well as the amount of carts that are abandoned each year and how much money is lost from businesses. While doing our research, we like to do some research before our podcast, make sure that we're preparing properly. And there's some staggering numbers out there. For example, $18 billion is lost each year in e-commerce sales from cart abandons. Like, people are coming to the checkout page and they're just exiting the page. We're going to investigate why that is, why people are leaving, what we can do about it as e-commerce businesses, and how, as an e-commerce marketing agency, we can help our clients be more successful in that cart abandon stage, and how we can win back customers. Isaac, what are your overall thoughts when it comes to approaching an account with cart abandon being one of the main focuses?
Oh yeah, I mean the shopping cart abandon is it's currently, the rate of it currently stands around 69% of carts are abandoned. So I think the main issue that a lot of brands tend to not really focus on is not that they're sending the email, and not that they're trying to recover by sending an email, sending a text, running a retargeting ad on Facebook. It's that they're not addressing why customers are abandoning in the first place. And as great as it is, and I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, as great as it is to kind of take credit for a cart abandon email and attribute that to our agency's success. We've turned on many cart abandons for a lot of different clients, and it's great to have that success. I'll give it to them. But what the problem is that they don't solve the problem, right? So,
sure, you always have to go
kind
back
of the biggest
problem, right?
Exactly, and that's probably the most critical point of it. And it's something that we always tell clients that, solve the problem. It may not be something we are super experts on, but I guarantee you, we're not on the conversion optimization area, but we understand what some of the hurdles are that they need to solve right away.
So what would you say some of the top hurdles are, right? Forgetting the fact that somebody gets cart abandon email, right? We're not up to the email stage yet. Somebody's in an e-commerce shop. They're browsing through, they're putting things in their shopping cart. They're pretty much ready for checkout. They get to the checkout page and all of a sudden they leave. What are the main factors that are involved when somebody leaves a checkout page and, either abandons the site completely, or goes back and browses some more, or leaves their computer? What is it that's preventing people from pulling that trigger and hitting the complete button?
Well, I think one thing, just as an interesting side note, is that related to this is that, the abandoned cart on e-commerce is actually one of the areas that is very different than in store. How we like to compare the store experience with online experience, and how brands should always try to replicate that in-store experience in many ways. The shopping cart abandon is actually, not as common in store. And I think it's because of like this kind of peer pressure that stands over the customers as they're on the checkout line, and they don't want to stop the aisle. They don't want to, back everyone up, and they don't want to say no to people. But the one main reason that I think is most consistent with in-store and online is when there's a surprise cost at checkout. For example, if you're in store and if you're in the store and you see an item and you think it's $1.99, like say a box of cereal, I don't know, $1.99, and you go up and you scan it, and all of a sudden now it's $4.99. You're like, wait a minute, what just happened there? I thought that was on sale. It was in the sale aisle. Like,
Yeah,
no, sorry, it's not on
sure.
sale. Right? That makes you be like, nah, I don't want it. Forget, thanks a lot, I don't want it. Right? That's a cart abandoned. So I think that's kind of the main reason, online and in store, for those who have brick and mortar locations, why customers abandon their cart. A surprise cost at checkout, which on e-commerce would be, oh, I didn't realize the tax was that high. I didn't realize I have to pay for shipping and handling. I didn't realize that free shipping was only eligible on items that were above a certain threshold,
Yeah.
or my discount code didn't work, right? That's another reason that's associated. So it's all these extra costs at checkout that pretty much attribute about probably half of all cart abandons. That's the main reason.
Wow, that's really, really good information. I mean, a lot of it also is people are, like you said, people are just not expecting something when they get to that page.
Yeah.
Would you say that there's a lot of it is indecision, or by the time they get to the checkout page, people are pretty much ready to make the purchase, but then something changes that decision that they were about to make?
I think most people by now, considering e-commerce, we're in 2022, and e-commerce is already part of our lives, pretty robustly, if that's a word. They pretty much,
it is for today.
They actually add to cart. It is for today. They add to cart and they go to checkout, and they kind of use that as their calculator to find out, oh, what is the final price? And that's when they say, like, oh, so that's the price all in. Like, like you go to a car dealership or something, you go out and say, okay, I like this car. And then right. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute, the air conditioner, I got an extra for this. I got extra for that. I got
hubcaps. You got to pay
Johnson rod. Right. Hubcaps. Right. George Costanza, the Johnson rod. I don't know whatever you add in. I'm on a Seinfeld binge, I guess. So all these costs, like, you just want to know, what's the price all in? What's my bottom line pricing? And I think they add to cart. A lot of people are adding to cart to find out that bottom line pricing. And that's when they either say, all right, that's acceptable, or when they say, let me go shop around and see if I can get something chopped off a little bit and see if it's cheaper. In many cases, where do they compare that? What's your barometer against you're comparing against? Amazon.
Right. Amazon, right?
Yeah, right. It's like, oh, okay, this will cost $100 and then $10 more for shipping. All right, let me go to Amazon and see if I can get cheaper and faster. So that's kind of where they're weighing against. I think that's the main psychological thing going behind cart abandon. There are some other areas that is also important to kind of take into account, but not as high, still important. Like, aren't you, like, people get frustrated when you have to log into an account. They just want seamless, remember me. I don't want to sign in. I don't want to create an account. I want to check out as a guest.
Right.
No matter what.
I almost never carry my wallet.
I don't want to know you.
I really never carry my wallet, and my credit cards are saved on my phone, on my computer. Anytime I'm at a checkout page, I just have to click on the credit card field, and the credit cards fill in the information for me. So much easier. And I mean, that's probably one of the main factors involved in the checkout page as well, is that, number one, the speed of a checkout page, loading and all that. You want to make sure that you want to get to the final complete purchase as quickly as possible as an e-commerce store. Ease of use, like you mentioned, we're not endorsing any companies right now with regards to speed of checkout, but there are plenty out there that have one page checkouts, and there's fast checkout, and just making sure that all your information is already saved and integrated as an e-commerce store, having your checkout page with integrations in terms of those checkout processes. But that's just, those are the factors on the website side. But so let's shift gears already over to, okay, so somebody actually abandoned the cart. Now this is where the magic happens. This is where we come in. And let's talk about, some of the stats that are involved in a cart abandon. You mentioned before that 69% of online carts are abandoned. But now we're talking about the actual emails themselves. So somebody leaves their shopping cart, 4 hours later or an hour later, an email goes out saying, we noticed that you left something in your shopping cart. Are you still interested in it? The stats involved in that are pretty high in terms of email opens, email clicks, and then email purchases. or purchases through email that come out. So talk about those for a few minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So number one, I'm a big believer in saying that if they're still on the site, focus on, as marketers, focus on what they're doing on site first to prevent the abandonment. I've seen one great option that not many brands utilize is the exit intent cart abandon. Like the minute it goes two ways, right? Number one, you exit the site, you say like, are you sure you want to exit? You only X amount of dollars until you're, free shipping or whatever it is, or give a discount, fine. But then there's also we know you're running out of time. We know time is short, or we know you got to go. Enter your email. We'll send you your cart. We'll save it for you for those who are not on your list. So there's a few different things related to email that customers can do. There's some great tools for that.
So even before you get an
Even
email
before,
sent to you,
yeah,
right? You have to capture
even
that
before
email.
the 4-hour window. And the reason for that is, number one, an email is great, but it's only for subscribers for the most part, right? So if most of your carts, I mean, all the cart mentioned you're referring to, and 69% of shopping cart abandonment, only 30% of that, 20% of that is actually subscribers. The rest are anonymous, like you don't know who they are. And you want to identify them. So that's number one. And that definitely is a major low-hanging fruit opportunity. But for those that actually are getting the email, there's some people that say wait 2 hours, wait 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. Honestly, it really depends on the brand. There's nothing that really says what the time window looks like, but your email should be dedicated only to that cart, only to the items in that cart, and focusing everything you do on why. Resolve those hidden costs, resolve, why you should trust the brand, resolve how easy it is, get them straight, right? If they abandoned on their desktop and they now came back on their mobile device, make sure you're sending them to the same experience, straight to checkout.
Sure.
So resolve all that. That should be in the first email of the cart abandon. That's shown the biggest success.
Okay, so you mentioned the first email, the cart abandoned. How many emails are typically in your cart abandon series? I mean, we call it a series because one email just isn't enough. So how many would you say is enough? How many would you say is too much? And what's the sweet spot over there?
It's tough to say. It's also depending on brand. It depends on how big of a purchase we're talking about. If we're talking about a stick of gum, it's very different than a bike, like a $2,000 bike or something like that. So in addition, you also want to say to yourself, is this the right channel for a person, right? Because, first pass will get an email, right? For most people, and you send an email is the most easiest way to do it and probably the most highest converting. But if they're not engaging with the email, why send another one and why send a third one, right? I found success with sending 3 touches of email and then another one 2 weeks later, where you recover everyone who was still there. But not every brand is the same way. So you want to kind of just examine the journey. One thing that a lot of brands are starting to do, and that we've actually run out as well, is send the first email, right? Cart abandoned, let's say 4 hours after, and then wait a day, check it. Whoever opened or clicked, send them the next one if they did not convert. If they did not open or click, send them an SMS or send them a text, right? If they're on your SMS list. That allows you to try to reach them in a different channel because they were not engaged with the first time.
Okay.
So that's a good way to kind of, make it multi-channel. And then give call-in options. Some brands also prefer if you call them in and just call again, if we're talking like a high spend, like if we're talking a $5,000
items, right?
Nug smasher, right? Like so product like that. Yeah, they may need to talk to someone, right? They may need to talk about,
You're more likely. Well,
yeah.
So that's where, you have multiple touch points, but also somebody's on your website browsing a product or putting some in your shopping cart. So there's notifications that the e-commerce team is going to get, right? Sometimes you have that set up. So how would a company know, that somebody didn't open that email, or I guess you can then look and say somebody didn't open that email. Okay, now it's time for the sales team to come in and pick up the phone and say, we saw that you were interested in this. Are you still interested in this? Or you have a chatbot that does the same type of thing. So, I would say though that one of our our best converting workflows is that cart abandonment, because you
100%.
want to see close to 50% conversion rate on your cart abandoned emails. Would you say that's a fair assessment, or would you say that's a little bit high or low even?
I think that's a little bit high in general, just because it's going to be, again, you're assuming that, the customer is engaged with email. You're assuming that they still want the product. You're assuming they've completed all their research about whether or not they wanted it. So that's kind of, it really does depend on the type of product too. If there's low stock, or if there's some sort of urgency, that could also increase your conversion rate. So it really definitely depends on the brand, but we can definitely agree that definitely you can see 50% open rates, 60% open rates, 20% click rates. If you're not seeing numbers like that, then you should definitely think about how you can optimize it. And the conversion rate is definitely 10 to 20%. Like, there should be no reason why you're not converting at a high level.
Absolutely. Should be,
should
be one of your
compared
better
to the average.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Compared to the average of a campaign, which may be 1 to 2%, some cases much lower, depends on the campaign.
Right. Yeah, typically. I mean, we see that a lot, that our workflows work to bring in more than just the campaigns. Campaigns typically just bring people to the site. Workflows bring people in to make the money. So, again, our podcast here is to help businesses work smarter, not harder. And the cart abandon is definitely one of the ways to work smarter, not harder. Talk about that a little bit, about how it's almost easy to turn on, to allow it just, make money while you sleep almost.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is the smartest way to do it. It is the highest converting automation. It is probably one of the most personalized automations, to the point of being almost at checkout. You're almost at that finish line.
Right there.
Right. Like, you've convinced them about everything else. You've convinced them about they've trusted you enough. You've convinced them about the rewards, or I'm sorry, not rewards, your value you provide. You've convinced them that other people are using you, right? The product is good. The pricing is somewhat okay in the range.
Right.
And they're at the finish line. So this is a really smart email to focus on. And I think in terms of the automations, out of all the automations out there are hundreds. We've built out dozens and dozens of different variations, like replenishment, re-engagement, reactivation, welcome, non-buyer, all these type of flows. And the cart abandonment and the browse abandonment are easily going to attribute 50% of all the revenue from all those flows. So they're 50% of all the revenue of any flows you can create. So really got to focus on them. I think the main thing that is super important to remember, though, is some brands are very much like, isn't this annoying? Aren't you annoying people for sending these emails too much? Is it too annoying? And I mean, my answer to that, you may have a different answer, or a shorter answer, no. But the answer is, this is super relevant, super personalized. And if you gotta address it from a really, you have an opportunity to talk to a customer on a one-to-one level, right, when they're about to complete their order. And I think that's really what people think. It's that too many emails, but it's more about personalize the emails, so it doesn't feel like it's coming from a salesperson or a business. Feel like it's coming from a friend. And nice. I think that's why most of our clients really have expand on their automations, on their abandoned automations, because it's important to come from a friend. And the alternative is what? You're going to send them another campaign and distract them.
Right.
That's even worse.
That's definitely worse. So there are a couple of questions that, I just wanted to ask in terms of the actual content of the emails that you'd be sending out in a cart abandoned flow. How often and when? Obviously everything is industry specific, but in your best estimate and your best experience, is it ever worth it to offer a discount in a cart abandoned flow? Like, if somebody hasn't made the purchase after 2 or 3 emails, do you send them that, if you order now, we'll give you another 10% discount? Or is that really just training the customers to wait for that?
Yeah, I think a lot of customers, I mean, it's very like the 80 pro principle, right? 80-20 rule. Majority of the customers who will shop at you are going to be for a very a select group of people, right? 20% of it. And if you start training them to look for that discount, because they're shopping often, right? Your 2-time, 3-time, 4-time buyers are shopping often enough that if they're going to see a discount every time they abandon their cart, they will be trained to shop at you on a discount.
Right.
So my recommendation for brands is the first pass should always be focused on addressing their pain points, which is like surprise cost at checkout, all these kind of hurdles. And then maybe later on, maybe touch 2 or touch 3, touch 4 even would be then at some point, then you raise the discount amount.
Well, is that something that you even address? Like, do you address those concerns or those surprises at checkout in the abandoned cart email? Like, do you actually mention, like, did you think, was there something that was wrong? Did you think that checkout that the shipping was, X dollars when it should have been at Y dollars, or were you not expecting tax?
Yeah, you can get, I mean, if we're talking like basic out of the box type of automations from Klaviyo or MailChimp or, OmniSend, you can do basic ones that just have static stuff that says, we have great customer reviews and show a review, or we have, you can call us and reach out and connect with someone, or you come just, talk to send us a chat and we'll deal with your, inquiry on chat. But you can actually get even more personalized, such as sending an email and dynamically showing that your cart is only $15 away from free shipping. So that addresses their problem, like, oh, there was a surprise cost of shipping. Let me start doing that. Now that's a dynamic way of approaching it. That's a more advanced, right? But I wouldn't hold out starting to wait for the advanced version. Start with just turning something on. But yes, you can get super, super advanced in your automations with the more data you have. So it's really a question of data coming in. And I think that's been really successful. Like even addressing like this purchase will earn you a certain amount of rewards, which is equal to, I don't know, $10 credit after you make a purchase. So that's also a value to add on. So it's all these data points that you can stack into your cart abandonment email to overcome their concerns dynamically and on a one-to-one level.
Right. Okay, that's great. Yeah, thank you. So one of the other ones that we came across recently, and we just started implementing it for a number of our clients, is the difference between a cart abandon and a checkout abandon. Can you go into that a little bit? We thought that was really cool, and when we started to work with that, and we saw a lot of positive feedback and positive results when it came to setting up both of those on the same site.
Sure. I think within Shopify, I know a lot of brands are on Shopify these days. It's becoming the go-to. I know you're a WooCommerce kind of guy.
I'm learning.
Shopify's,
I'm leaning that way. Shopify's nice and easy.
You're platform agnostic. So
I wouldn't go that far. I'm not a Magento guy.
Magento, oh, that's a tough one. Gotta really know your stuff.
Yeah.
I think that at least with Shopify, there is a gap between people who put stuff in their cart and people who started checkout. That's two separate experiences. It means like checkout started could mean that you have, you've resolved the point of like surprise costs, right? There are times when you saw the shipping, you saw the rewards, you saw everything you need to see, so you resolved all that. At the checkout, maybe it may just be a lack of time. I didn't have time to complete my order. My boss walked in, my kids started screaming. So maybe there's that, or maybe there's a problem in how I was, didn't save my information, like you were saying. So all that was could be why checkout start is an issue.
Sounds good. Okay, we're coming up at the end of time, and just to give our audience a little piece of advice in terms of next steps for cart abandon and checkout abandon. What would you say that the best way to get this moving for a business that wants to get started right away?
Oh, the best way, turn it on. just start turning something on. Just even if it's not the most perfect, even if it's not the best, start making sure your website can actually turn on a cart abandon and just identify these users and start by turning it on. The next step would be mapping out the journey, making sure it looks really nice and clean. Make sure you suppress everyone who's getting a campaign, everyone who's getting a cart abandoned from the rest of your campaigns. You don't want to overmail them, right? And start doing that, and then just look into why they're abandoning in the first place. That's the main, that's overall, right? That helps everyone. You know, you don't need to send an email to recover a cart. You don't need to send Facebook ads to recover a cart. Start with the abandoned problems.
Right. Definitely. Okay, this has been a fun. We don't go too technical sometimes. This is episode 13. We don't really get too granular, and this is a good one to show the breadth of our experience to our audience and give them something that we haven't really done too much of. So this is a good episode. Appreciate your time, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Ecom 80/20 podcast. I'm your host, Yaakov Rosenberg, with my partner, Isaac Hyman, where we help e-commerce businesses work smarter, not harder. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Ecom 80/20 podcast. If you enjoyed this show, please make sure to subscribe and follow us on social at High Flyer Digital for daily tips, content, and videos. To put this week's strategy into action and move your brand forward, go to highflyerdigital.com/book and schedule a free 15-minute chat with Isaac and Yaakov. Let's partner together to compete and win at e-commerce. Your brand is worth it. Until next week, this is Isaac and Yaakov wishing you a successful and profitable week.